What's good, y'all? Today we're going to go over how to build Silas, and for that we're going to take a quick look at his skills, talk about which skills to max and when to max, and lastly take a look at the mid-game, late-game, end-game build and the difference between building him for guild boss and other content. So yeah, then let's get straight into it. So for the skills, we're going to start with the talent. The talent states deal 20% extra damage to airborne units after attacking 5 times, triggers soul sniping on the next attack. Soul sniping being him dealing 140% damage and ignoring 50% of the target's defense. And this soul sniping is also what allows us a bit of viability, a bit of variance in how to build him. And it's also going to be the most important part in why we're going to choose certain items. So, yeah. Then after this we're going to go into basic attack. It's pretty much just 120% damage or 100% unleveled, prioritizing airborne units. Blood Pact, if a unit within attack range dies, increases damage by 40% for 10 seconds. This effect can be triggered up to 1 time every 15 seconds. So pretty much just a straight up damage increase if something dies in his range. And then Eye of Curse. After attacking the same target for 5 seconds, inflicts Eye of Curse upon the target for 12 seconds, and the Eye of Curse will be triggered only 1 time every 20 seconds, and allow and that Eye of Curse will allow Soul Sniping to deal an extra 50% damage. And then we have the ultimate, Shadow Cloak. His damage increases by 80%, so pretty much 60 normally and then up to 80. And each attack becomes Soul Sniping, so the same one from the talent. And that ignores defense and magic res of the target for 20 seconds. And then we have the pain. The biggest loss for every Silas owner that doesn't have a Vjörna. The difference between a Silas with and without Vjörna, especially in the endgame, is mental. Mental. So yeah. Lost Love. Obtain Hero Vjörna the Wraith Queen to unlock the following bonus effect. Doing the effect of Shadow Cloak, Soul Sniping deals 100% extra damage. Might not sound like much, but in the end he actually doesn't do 100% more damage, he legit shoots one more time. So he does 2 instances of damage compared to 1 instance, which also works with the Eye of Curse triggering multiple times. And yeah, in the end the Vjörna bond skill is broken. So, what to max? For a normal Silas without a Vjörna, you're going to upgrade him as far as you need to go to get his ultimate to level 4, to get the increased effect duration by 5 seconds, and that's when you stop. So ultimate to level 4, and that's when you stop. And only once you unlock Vjörna would you go for maxing all skills, right? The moment you unlock a Vjörna, you can work on maxing all the skills out, really maxing all the skills out. If you don't have a Vjörna, then you can keep him at ultimate level 4 and be totally fine. So yeah. Then let's get into a mid-game build. This build, as you can see, has 139% crit rate, which is because obviously in the beginning it's going to be quite hard to find pieces that allow you to get to 100% crit rate. So yeah, for the early mid-game, we have a build that runs a crit rate in the top stat, so top main stat. Obviously important here is that you want to run attack bonus. You want crit rate and attack bonus for any crit rate piece. If it doesn't have attack bonus, then you're not going to want to level it. And let's continue on the right side. We're going to have an attack bonus piece with a bit of crit rate and a bit of crit damage, and another attack bonus piece with crit rate and crit damage. Though, because you have the 60% crit rate here, you do have a lot of freedom, and you could even run a piece without any crit rate and just crit damage, or just crit rate. For sets for the right side, you don't want any sets, especially early on. What you're going to look for is stats. And so pretty much you're going to run a broken set. And for the left side, you want 2 pieces of either Calamity, Annihilating Might, or the Whirlwind set, which just run attack bonus and crit rate in both cases. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And then let's call it an advanced mid-game build. Would be introducing a crit damage piece and would make his stats look like this. So why are we even considering running a crit damage piece if attack percent is the god stat? And what do I mean with god stat is basically in the damage calculation you first take your attack and then subtract it with the enemy defense, and that gives you the base number that's get multiplied by all the other multipliers, skill damage, crit damage, resistances, whatever. So in the end, attack is like the most important stat, but if you remember, soul sniping allows him to ignore defense, which allows us to go lower in attack and higher in crit damage. And that also gives us the advanced mid-game build running 2 attack percent pieces and a crit damage piece, obviously still aiming for 100% crit rate and then getting as much crit damage as we possibly can. So yeah, that concludes the mid-game build, and let's go into the late game one. It doesn't quite conclude it because I forgot to talk about the artifact. So yeah, the artifact is pretty much very straightforward. You're going to use an Ancestry Teachings, and yeah, so besides your Dolores, you do want to bring up a second Ancestry Teachings to just use on your Silas. And if you don't have an Ancestry Teaching or want to use something else, you can use Broken Nightmare. Though keep in mind, Broken Nightmare is more expensive to upgrade and harder to get your hands on. So you might as well just go with the straightforward Ancestry Teachings. Now into the late game build. Alright, this brings us to the late game build. The left side is going to stay unchanged. It's going to be the same Calamity, Whirlwind, or Annihilating Might set. Obviously, you can also use a Warlord set if you have one, right? So for the right side, we are going to run the same combination of main stats, so a double attack bonus and a crit damage piece. And we're going to start to try implementing attack speed. And set-wise, we want to either run a Night Terror set, a Hawkeye set, or a Fracture set, because late game is all about starting to get away from using a broken set and into actually using sets on the right side too. So yeah, as you can see, pretty much standard stats, same split, crit damage, attack bonus, but also running, partly starting to run attack speed. And artifact wise, we can for the moment stay with an Ancestry Teachings, but if you already have advanced marksman artifacts, you can consider using either a Nether Messenger or a Bloodborne Signet instead of an Ancestry Teachings, which is pretty simple and concludes the late game build. Alright, now for the end game build. For the end game build, you wanna get away from using a whirlwind set because you're going to get your attack speed elsewhere. As you can see, we're running 310 attack speed without even a whirlwind set. And your only options are really going to be either Calamity, Warlord, or Annihilating Might. In this case, we're going to run an Warlord piece. And also we're going to need to step up our game in regards to substats for the left side. So at least for the chestplate, it's going to be mandatory to run crit damage, crit rate, and attack bonus. And for the weapon, obviously attack bonus, crit rate, and attack speed. But if you can get away from using attack bonus and put in a crit damage. Though keep in mind, crit damage is only found on ancient weapons. And then for the right side, we are going to either run Infernal Roar or Ageless Wrath set, with Infernal Roar being superior to Ageless Wrath, but not by a super long shot. Stat distribution wise, we're going to have a look at the same stat distribution. It's going to be attack bonus, crit damage, attack bonus, and subsets are going to be pretty specific. They need to be crit rate, crit damage, attack speed, and also attack bonus. Pretty much those 4 stats need to be on every single piece. And yeah, that pretty much concludes endgame Silas, finishing off with a Nether Messenger, which is pretty much the only option if you do want to get for maximum damage. If you can't use a Nether Messenger, you could also use a Bloodborne Signet. So, alright, and now about the difference between using Silas in Guild Boss versus every other piece of content. So, the good thing about Guild Boss is that you almost have permanent Dolores uptime, while furthermore the Guild Boss has very low resistances or defenses compared to other pieces of content, which is why, especially with Silas Kit allowing him to bypass defense or resistances, is a piece of content where you want to implement double crit damage. So a Silas for Guild Boss an endgame Silas for Guild Boss would look something like this. Pretty much him rocking 2 crit damage pieces and a single attack bonus piece. And if you can, and if you do have the pieces for that, around 40% rage region seems to be the sweet spot to get the most out of your Silas, though that is only worth it if you do actually have a Vjörna to go along with your Silas. Besides that, it's totally fine to just rock 2 crit damage pieces. And yeah, that's pretty much about it. We can go back to, and the same is obviously true for the late game build, in which case we would then just use 2 Night Terror crit damage pieces, which would then end up looking, we have it, something like this. Yeah, so based on Silas Peculiar Kit, with his ability to ignore defense and resistance, it allows you to go at least minimum 1 crit damage piece, and especially for Guild Boss up to 2 pieces of crit damage. And as long as you can guarantee Silas ultimate going off with a Dolores boost, you can even use 2 crit damage pieces outside of Guild Boss, though it is easier to just go with 2 attack percent pieces and a single crit damage piece. And this concludes the Silas build.